Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we really try to unpack complex topics and give you the most vital knowledge. Today, we're taking on something that, on the surface, it might seem incredibly simple, but actually holds just a universe of unseen complexity. Drone site selection and survey. Imagine, if you will, a drone pilot. Let's call her Sarah. She's a seasoned professional, right? Arrives at what she thought was the perfect wide open field for her meticulous mapping mission, sun shining, clear skies. Everything looked ideal on her planning apps. She launches. Everything seems great, following her planned flight path. Until suddenly, completely uncommanded, her drone just soars an extra 5 meters higher. Turns out it was a massive invisible thermal updraft rising from a nearby asphalt parking lot. Completely threw off her data. Or, maybe she's doing an infrastructure inspection and a seemingly docile, but actually very territorial, gaggle of geese decides her drone is some kind of invading alien. Forces an immediate, unscheduled emergency landing in, let's say, a less than ideal spot. These aren't just funny anecdotes, They are real, sometimes bizarre, and always unexpected challenges. And they really underscore the incredible foresight and planning required for what looks like simple drone flight.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how much meticulous planning, foresight, and just hidden knowledge goes into even a really brief drone flight. For this deep dive, we've compiled quite a stack of critical insights. Our sources include drone surveying wisdom, evolution of drone site selection and surveying regulations, mastering drone site selection, that's both the comprehensive guide and its real-world scenario supplement, and RPAS site selection, safety and surveying essentials. So our mission today is really to cut through the noise, identify those crucial nuggets of knowledge, and give you, the listener, a shortcut to understanding this hidden world of safe, legal, and, truly professional drone operations. Whether you're maybe a budding pilot thinking about getting your license, or an industry pro looking to refine your practices, or maybe just someone who occasionally sees a drone buzzing overhead and wonders about it, we want you to appreciate the sheer professionalism involved. And who knows, you might even start thinking about the invisible complexities of your own backyard a little differently.
Okay, so let's unpack this fundamental question then. Why is picking a drone launch spot such a monumental deal? To an outsider, you might think it's just an open field, right? Point and shoot, bring it home. Easy. But our sources make it crystal clear. This seemingly simple task is actually absolutely foundational. Foundational to mission success and, maybe more importantly, safety. One particularly grim statistic from our sources notes that 90% of preventable drone accidents trace back to pilot oversight during takeoff landing, inadequate obstacle awareness, or site misjudgment.
90%. That's a staggering number. And it isn't just a compelling statistic. It really reveals a fundamental kind of counterintuitive truth many people overlook. Your drone's safety isn't primarily about its advanced tech or, how skilled you are with the sticks once it's airborne. It's overwhelmingly about the pre-flight human judgment and that meticulous preparation that happens before you even touch the controls.
Right. So it forces us to ask, are we investing as much in our pre-flight intelligence and reconnaissance as we do in our flight skills and equipment? Because the data suggests that's where the biggest vulnerabilities really lie. It's about setting the stage for a safe flight before you even press go.
And this leads to an absolutely critical question when something, inevitably goes wrong. Who's ultimately on the hook? Well, Transport Canada, the federal regulatory body here in Canada, holds the RPAS pilot, that's a remotely piloted aircraft system pilot, 100% accountable for the operation, full stop. This isn't just a guideline, it's a legal cornerstone. Even if you're using a tool like NAV Drone, which gives great airspace info and it gives you a green light, you as the pilot are still legally responsible if something goes wrong.
Wow. Even with the app saying, okay.
Yep. Knowledge is most valuable when understood and applied, right? So, in this context, knowing the ins and outs of your site survey isn't just best practice, it's actually your strongest legal shield in case of an incident or maybe an audit. This is the difference between just being compliant and being truly safe and defensible.
The sources really drive home this idea of teaching the why before the what. It's not about seeing regulations or procedures as, like, burdens, but understanding them as parts of a bigger safety system. Think of it like this, maybe.
Mm.
If your drone's flight is a house you're building, the site survey is its absolute foundation. If that foundation is weak, unstable, built on quicksand, then nothing else, no matter how expertly built the house or how skillfully flown the drone, can stand safely on it. It's about being proactive with safety and risk mitigation, not just reactive after something happens.
Exactly. So let's maybe define the core concepts we're talking about here. First, site selection. This is that preliminary process, right? Identifying and evaluating a potential location to make sure it meets all the criteria. Safety, legality, and ultimately mission success. It's kind of like scouting the perfect campsite. You want flat ground, away from obvious hazards, good view of your surroundings, and importantly, no uninvited guests like bears or, territorial geese. It's the broad stroke, the initial look.
Okay, that makes sense. The first pass.
Right. And building on that, you have site surveying. This is the more systematic, detailed, methodical review, looking at all the environmental, airspace, legal, and operational factors. This is the safety detective part of the job, really digging into the nuanced layers of potential challenges. This is where you bring out your checklists, your maps, your sharpest observation
A
skills.
deep dive, so to speak.
Precisely. And within site surveying, there are two key supporting concepts that are just paramount. First, obstacle clearance. This isn't just about avoiding a head-on collision. It's about ensuring enough horizontal and vertical distance from any potential hazards. Near your flight path, around your launch landing zone, everything. We're talking about trees, towers, buildings, but also those insidious, often invisible, unmarked wires. As one source ominously warns, they bite drones. Power lines, communication cables, even old fence wires. Incredibly hard to see against the sky, especially when your focus is, on the drone itself.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Easy to miss.
Very easy. Second, and just as critical, is visual line of sight, or VLOS. For the vast majority of drone ops in Canada, keeping VLOS is non-negotiable. It means you, the pilot, must maintain unobstructed, continuous visibility of your drone throughout the whole operation, takeoff to landing. Without needing binoculars or FPV goggles, our sources offer a good mnemonic. Vision lets operator see. Or simpler. If you can't see it, you can't fly it. Unless, of course, you have very specific advanced authorization for beyond visual line of sight, BVLOS operation. That's a whole different ballgame. But this VLOS concept is not just a suggestion. It's testable for advanced pilots and absolutely crucial for safety, so you can react immediately if anything unexpected happens.
Okay, this is where it gets really insightful, I think. Helping you think like an elite operator. One of our sources suggests breaking down site selection and surveying into what they call the three lenses. This isn't just theory, it's a practical framework. Helps you cover all the angles, make sure nothing critical gets missed. It's about cultivating a holistic mindset. So the first lens is the legal lens. This focuses purely on compliance, all the applicable regulations. For those new to Transport Canada's rules, this means understanding Garnar's 901.23 and 901.27, basically your legal mandate to do thorough pre-flight risk assessments. It also involves checking NOTAMs, that's notice to airmen, for temporary flight restrictions, understanding airspace classifications, getting any needed permits, federal, provincial, municipal. A key question you're constantly asking through this lens is this a legal launch point right now? Am I in controlled airspace without permission? Are there local bylaws stopping me?
Makes sense. Check the rulebook first.
Exactly. Then you shift to the operational lens. This one focuses intensely on the practical side of safety, maintaining that crucial VLOS, identifying solid fallback zones. Here you're asking, okay, where can I actually land in an emergency if my drone loses power or control? Can I keep clear visual line of sight through the whole mission, even if it flies behind those trees or that building? What are the potential interference sources around here that could mess with my control signal? It's about the raw practicalities of ensuring a safe flight given the environment and your tech.
And finally, the one that's often overlooked but incredibly important, the perceptual lens. This might seem less obvious, but it's about public confidence, crew clarity, and critically audit defensibility. Here, the question becomes, does this whole setup look professional and well-managed to an outsider? Could I clearly justify my choices and actions if I were questioned by an auditor, law enforcement, even a concerned member of the public?
Hmm.
This lens really pushes you to think beyond just the technical stuff to how your actions are perceived by others. It highlights that just being legal isn't always enough. You also need to appear professional, responsible, and safe. A well-placed cone, clear signage, a confident, organized approach that can make all the difference in heading off potential public misunderstandings or complaints.
That's a great point. So maybe a quick example. Let's say you're planning a flight near a public park. The legal lens asks, any temporary restrictions, like for an event? Any local park bylaws against drones? Right. Then the operational lens. Can I keep VLOS over those tall trees? Where's my emergency landing zone away from people and playgrounds? And finally, the perceptual lens makes you think. Even if it's legal, how might people react? Is my setup professional, clear signage to avoid issues? Applying all three gives you that comprehensive safety net.
Precisely. It
Yeah.
forces a much more rounded assessment. Yeah, and to really appreciate where we are now with drone site selection, we kind of need to understand how it evolved. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights how fast a new technology can outpace the rules and the need for standardized safety protocols to catch up. Let's wind back to the early days, say before 2018. Our sources aptly call this the Wild West era for Canadian drone ops. Back then, if you wanted to fly a drone for anything more than a hobby, you relied on something called Special Flight Operations Certificates, or SFOCs. These were issued by Transport Canada case by case, basically a custom permission slip for each specific operation. There was no consistent definition or, frankly, much enforcement of site surveying as we know it now. Pilots were just expected to exercise due diligence, but what that actually meant, it varied wildly. Depended on the inspector, the region, risk assessments were largely self-regulated, often informal, maybe just mental notes. Site surveying was acknowledged as important, sure, but not consistently defined or rigidly enforced. It was a real patchwork.
Wow, so really inconsistent. Then came the big shift, right? A real game changer. In 2019, Canada took this monumental step with CARS Part 9, Canadian Aviation Regulations Part 9. This was the point where the country implemented a structured, comprehensive RPAS regulatory framework, moving definitively away from that ad hoc SFOC system for most routine stuff. This brought in standardized pilot certification, created the basic and advanced licenses we have now, meeting exams, flight reviews. It clearly defined airspace rules, made them more predictable, and crucially, it introduced a clear legal requirement to assess risks before every flight, specifically under CARS 901.23 and 901.27. So site selection and surveying for the first time became a clear, undeniable legal pilot duty, not just a suggestion or some vague best practice. That was foundational for professional drone ops here.
Absolutely. And as drone use just exploded commercially between, say, 2020 and 2024, Transport Canada naturally stepped up its oversight and regulatory maturity. They significantly ramped up audits and enforcement actions, really pushing operators to meticulously log and document their risk assessments. Site selection became deeply integrated into company safety management systems, SMS, and a core part of professional pilot training. Advanced pilots, especially, were expected to operate with the kind of meticulous planning and documentation you'd expect from, well, airline captains, as one source put it, ensuring every flight was rigorously planned, logged, and defensible. This period truly embedded site selection as a non-negotiable compliance checkpoint, solidified its place as mandatory, professional, and audit-ready. It shows how quickly the industry matured in response to commercial adoption and, public safety demands.
Okay, fast forward to today. Well, technically as of March 2025, but we're speaking in July 2025 now. The very latest update came with the Urban Flight Logging Rule, formerly known as SOR 2025-70. Now, for those not familiar, SOR means statutory order and regulation, a direct legal amendment. And this is a big one, specifically for urban ops. For flights in urban and populated areas generally defined as near 1,000 plus people or in built-up zones, site selection must now be formally documented, auditable, and directly linked to your location's risk profile.
So what does that actually mean for pilots in practice?
It's a big leap in accountability. You must log the precise latitude and longitude, or the exact street address of your launch and operational area. You need to include a site diagram or even just a photo of the area. And critically, you have to comprehensively note all identified hazards, any bystanders present, and the specific mitigations you put in place to manage those risks. The guiding principle here, according to our sources, is crystal clear. If it's a crowd, write it down. This amendment really reflects a definite zero-tolerance shift towards accountability and data-driven oversight. Leaves very little to chance. Emphasizes that your planning isn't just for safety, but for strict regulatory compliance.
Okay, so with this rapid evolution, what's coming next? The future of site selection is moving fast, driven by tech and just more drones in our daily lives. We can probably anticipate requirements for automated digital site logs. Imagine Transport Canada potentially requiring not just paper or PDF logs, but digital submission of your site assessments directly, especially for advanced ops or SFOCs. Tools like NAV Drone might evolve to not just show you airspace, but to maybe store or even transmit these logs automatically, meaning your survey, flight plan, NOTAM is your MOTAMs. Notice to airmen for temporary restrictions could all be submitted seamlessly before launch, could streamline approvals, potentially.
That sounds efficient, but also maybe a bit Big Brother.
It's a balance, right? And beyond that, we're looking at AI risk scoring. Future RPAS platforms might use artificial intelligence to evaluate your takeoff location's risk in real time. This AI could suggest safer alternatives, proactively flag hazards using detailed terrain and obstacle databases way beyond what we have now. But this raises that important question. How do we balance human oversight, our nuanced understanding of local conditions, with the efficiency of AI? The pilot's judgment, I think, will always have to remain paramount, even with smarter tools.
Interesting point.
Then there's the exciting, though complex, area of urban air mobility, UAM, and multi-drone corridors. As drone delivery, maybe even air taxis become reality, we'll see shared takeoff and recovery zones, or SDOZ. Site selection here will involve intricate coordination, not just simple clearance. It'll be like operating at a tiny, hyperlocal airport. Booking slots, synchronizing with drone traffic management systems, adhering to geofenced corridors. It moves way beyond individual site assessment into a dynamic multi-user system.
Like a mini air traffic control for drones.
Kind of, yeah. And finally, expect continued international harmonization. Global bodies like ICAO are aligning RPAS rules. This global push could lead to Canada adopting even stricter standards on public overflight, property use, privacy zones. Maybe mandating geofencing and dynamic flight restrictions tied to international databases that update in real time based on events or local conditions.
So wrapping this section up, what does this all mean for you, the listener, in real, actionable terms? It means staying ahead isn't just about passively following rules. It's about proactively understanding the why behind them, the safety principles driving these regs. It's about building a consistently professional, repeatable assessment process for every single flight, making site selection a robust, integrated part of your pre-flight routine. This isn't just good practice anymore. It's rapidly becoming a fundamental necessity in an increasingly regulated and complex airspace.
Couldn't agree more. It's about professionalism.
Okay, let's unpack some truly surprising, almost counterintuitive facts, stuff most people would never even consider about drone operations. When I was reading through the sources for this, one thing that really caught me off guard was this idea that your drone might not just be battling wind and gravity, but actually someone's Netflix binge.
Huh. It sounds funny, but it's real.
Yeah. Our sources reveal that Wi-Fi router interference is a very real, often invisible problem. Many popular drones operate on the same 2.4 gigahertz or 5.8 gigahertz bands as home Wi-Fi. So if you're flying in an area dense with Wi-Fi, think downtown, busy commercial areas, big apartment buildings, your drone can experience significant signal issues. Degradation, intermittent connection, even dropping signal mid-flight because of all the competing signals. One source puts it vividly. Your drone might lose its mind because of someone binge-watching Netflix. It's not just a cute phrase, it's a serious operational hazard. Could lead to loss of control, unexpected return to home. Your site survey has to consider that invisible electromagnetic landscape.
Absolutely. And it gets even weirder when you look down at the ground you launch from. Did you know that metal roofs and manholes can hijack your compass? A big metal manhole cover, a rooftop HVAC unit, even steel rebar just under the concrete that can completely scramble your drone's compass and magnetometers? We've heard stories from pilots about sudden flyaways or weird rotational behavior during takeoff because their drone's navigation system thought north was sideways or constantly shifting.
Seriously? Just from a manhole cover?
Yeah, the magnetic interference can be that strong, that localized. It really highlights why your exact takeoff spot matters just as much as the airspace above. Clear skies, no visible obstacles, but a wonky compass can send your drone off course before you even get full control.
Okay, that's wild. And then there are these subtle, localized environmental things?
Yeah.
Like mini weather zones.
Exactly. Urban heat pockets and wind shear. Silent threats that can surprise even experienced pilots. Downtown areas, glass, concrete, steel, they absorb and reflect heat, creating powerful thermal updrafts, especially on hot days. Winds can funnel erratically between buildings. GPS signals might bounce off reflective surfaces, that's multipath error. We heard about one Toronto operator who saw their drone, uncommanded, climb 5 meters just from a sudden thermal updraft off a big, sun-baked concrete plaza. That's why a truly comprehensive site survey includes checking not just the main weather forecasts, but also looking for these hyper-localized effects that can dramatically impact your flight stability and altitude.
Right, so much going on beneath the surface or within structures.
Yeah.
Things you'd never expect unless you were looking.
Totally. And this relates closely to magnetic interference again. Flying near a high-voltage transformer station or directly over buried electrical lines or that rebar can cause severe compass calibration failures, erratic flight. The sources tell a story of a pilot having repeated orientation issues. Finally realized their drone was sitting right above a complex network of underground steam lines and vaults, severely disrupted its magnetic orientation. In cases like that, you have to stop, move your launch spot several meters away from any suspected interference, and recalibrate your compass in a magnetically clean area before trying again.
And what about GPS issues in cities? You mentioned urban canyons.
Yeah, GNSS multipath error. GNSS includes GPS, GLONASS, etc. If you launch near big steel buildings, tall towers, reflective glass, these urban canyons trap and down signals, your drone's receiver gets multiple versions of the same satellite signal, leading to false altitude and location data. This is crucial because Transport Canada considers your flight log integrity part of compliance. If your drone's recorded data looks wonky, you're still liable, even if the drone thought it was flying correctly. So avoiding these signal bouncing areas or having robust mitigations like flying more manually or using visual references is key.
Okay, and this point about altitude, AGL isn't always AGL. Can you explain that again? It seems really important.
It is, and it trips people up. AGL means above ground level. So the question is, if you launch from a hilltop, say 100 feet above a deep ravine, and then fly horizontally over the ravine, your drone might report 400 feet above launch point, which is usually the limit for basic ops. But relative to the ground directly beneath it in the ravine, it could suddenly be 500, 600, maybe more feet AGL. And without specific authorization or an advanced certificate, exceeding 400 feet AGL is illegal and dangerous. It highlights that flat Earth thinking just doesn't work in complex terrain. You must consider the ground contour beneath your drone, not just your launch elevation. Plan your altitude limits accordingly. Needs careful study of topo maps during your survey.
Got it. That requires real attention to detail. Now, here's where it gets truly unexpected, right? Your flight path isn't just about other planes. It's about the entire ecosystem, feathers and fur included.
Yes, exactly.
First, this bizarre but real problem. Drones have been stopped by. Goats and geese. You heard that right. Sources mention Canadian operators doing infrastructure inspections, getting chased off or forced to land by territorial geese, aggressive goats, even curious raccoons. Sounds like a cartoon, but imagine being mid-inspection and your expensive drone is suddenly being treated like a giant chew toy by a protective swan. So when doing site selection, asking, am I on anyone's turf, especially the feathery or furry kind, is actually valid. One scenario describes a large owl dive-bombing a drone on a nature trail flight. Birds are airspace users too, often unpredictable ones. You need to review for active nests, migration signs, wildlife warnings, especially in forests, wetlands, parks. It's a real safety risk.
It absolutely is. Then you have the issue of unregistered aerodromes and hidden heliports. SCARS 901.47 requires avoiding aerodromes without coordination. But here's the catch. Some private helipads, small crop duster strips, hospital rooftops with active heliports. They might not be clearly listed on NAV drone or other common charts, yet you are still legally responsible for knowing they exist and coordinating if necessary, especially if you're within their proximity zones. One scenario described a pilot about to launch near a shopping center, totally unaware of a nearby hospital heliport not on their app.
So you have to go beyond the app.
Definitely. Physically scan the area, check detailed satellite images like Google Earth for unmarked landing areas, even ask locals about unusual flight activity. Local knowledge can be a lifesaver.
Okay, and this emergency scenario, you're flying, siren start, emergency vehicles roll onto your site, emergency services take over. What's the protocol?
Land immediately, safely, without delay. Your drone should never be part of the problem. Notify crews on site of your drone's location and status. And under no circumstances resume flight until you're explicitly cleared by first responders. That might take hours, even days. This really emphasizes that a proper site selection must include a detailed exit strategy and contingency plan for unexpected ground emergencies affecting your area. Public safety comes first.
Right, so to avoid missing any crucial steps during that on-site assessment, the best pilots don't just, wing it. They use repeatable, systematic checklists. The Safe Flight Mnemonic is an excellent, really comprehensive tool for this. Ensures you cover every vital aspect of your operational environment. Let's maybe walk through each letter.
Yeah, let's do it. S.
S, surroundings.
Yeah.
Your initial visual scan. What's around me? Trees, towers, terrain, buildings, any hidden obstacles affecting flight path, line of sight, signal, roads, water, power lines nearby.
Okay. A, airspace. Pull out the digital tools. Where am I allowed to fly? Check NAV drone, VNC charts. Controlled, restricted, uncontrolled airspace. Any active NOTAMs. Remember, NAV drone is a planning tool, not permission. F, footprint and fallback zones. Consider the human element, safety margins. Where are people, property, any local no-fly bylaws? Crucially, where can I land safely in an emergency away from people and property? Identify that emergency landing zone before takeoff. E, entry-exit points. Logistics, ground safety. How do we crew, vehicles, drone get in and out safely? Clear access for emergency services if needed. Any hazards on the ground routes?
Another F.
F, forecast. Beyond the general weather app, what's the sky doing now and what will it do during my operation? Wind speed direction, rain, fog, but also those localized effects, thermals, wind shear around buildings, local laws, beyond federal rules. Am I allowed to be here by local authorities?
Yeah.
Municipal bylaws, park permits, private property rules. Check with the local authority if unsure. Interference risks, the invisible threats. Could anything mess with my signal or compass? Wi-Fi, cell towers, radio signals, magnetic fields from metal, rebar, buried lines. Identify potential sources, operate away from them. G, ground conditions. Look down at your launch spot. What's the surface like? Wet, uneven, dusty, kicking up debris. Hidden rebar, manholes, pipes affecting compass or props. H, hazards, broad category. What can I run into or what can interfere? Static hazards like wires, fences. Dynamic ones like construction crews, wildlife approaching people.
And finally, T.
T, traffic. All other movements. Who else is moving here? Ground and air. Vehicles, manned aircraft, helis, planes, other drones, pedestrians. How will you manage and avoid conflicts?
Wow, that Safe Flight Mnemonic is incredibly thorough. Our sources highly recommend making your own laminated, field-ready version. It's not just for exams, right? It's a vital tool for every flight. Turns potential oversight into proactive safety. But in the real world, things are fast-paced. Is there a risk of becoming too reliant on checklists, losing that intuitive judgment? How do you balance sticking to it with making quick decisions?
That's a really excellent question. It gets to the core of professionalism. Checklists are essential for consistency, making sure nothing critical is missed. But they are not a substitute for active critical thinking. The risk with any checklist is becoming that checkbox pilot, just ticking boxes without truly understanding the why. A professional uses safe flight not as a script, but as a framework for active observation and dynamic risk assessment. They're constantly processing new info, adapting if conditions change, using judgment to interpret what the checklist prompts them to look for. Hazards isn't just noting none known. It's actively scanning, listening, ready to modify if a new hazard appears mid-survey. It's a living document in your mind, guiding perception.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a guide, not a replacement for thinking.
Sure.
So beyond the physical site, you also need to master the digital airspace. Sources emphasize mastering key NAV candidate tools.
Yes, absolutely critical.
First, NAV drone. Essential for shifting airspace class, restrictions, nearby aerodromes, your primary digital map for legal ops. But remember, it's a planning tool, not permission. Like a weather app tells you the forecast, but not if your neighbor just started a bonfire creating thermals, or a school declared a no-fly zone for a field day. Doesn't account for dynamic, hyperlocal stuff or some private sites.
Good analogy.
Next, NOTAMs notice to airmen. Need to consistently access, read, interpret these for temporary restrictions, new obstacles, hazards, time-critical updates that supersede standard maps. The mnemonic, new obstacle, tell all members, helps remember its purpose.
Vital information.
And finally, VNC charts, visual navigation charts. Traditional aeronautical charts. Broader, detailed visual of controlled versus uncontrolled zones, airports, nav aids, terrain. While NAV drone simplifies, VNCs offer deeper context, especially for longer or complex flights, where understanding overall air traffic flow is good.
Right, and this raises that point again. Just knowing these tools exist isn't enough. You need to know how to interpret their output, cross-reference them with each other and your on-site observations, then apply that comprehensive info. It's about understanding the nuances, not just glancing at a map. Like, a NOTAM might show an active parachute jump zone. NAV drone doesn't highlight dynamically. Or a VNC chart shows a private strip not prominent on NAV drone.
So diligence requires using multiple sources and critical thinking.
Exactly. And Transport Canada, if there's an incident or audit, might investigate months later. This is why what you write down matters so much. Record keeping as a shield. Log the date, precise location, obstacles, real-time weather, hazards, and critically, the mitigations you put in place. Permits, communications, log it all.
And this isn't just paperwork.
No way. These written records protect the pilot in disputes or investigations. As of SOR 2025-70, site logs are mandatory for urban ops anyway. Best practices include photo logs, annotated Google Maps, mark your launch point, hazards, emergency landing zones, treat every flight like it might be audited. Because it could be. Mental notes won't cut it. A good log shows you thought through the risks. No log leaves you exposed.
Okay, strong message there. And emergency planning. Not just an afterthought.
Definitely not. It's critical, integrated into site selection. CARS 901.27 legally requires planning for emergencies, including detailed loss link procedures, what your drone does if it loses signal.
So during the site survey,
You must identify and be able to articulate safe, alternate landing zones. Designated areas to bring the drone down safely, quickly, away from people property. Mentally or visually mark them on your map pre-flight. Sources say identifying robust emergency zones might even be testable for advanced pilots during flight reviews. It forces proactive thinking. What if? Where do I go? Prepare for the worst while hoping for the best.
right, having that plan B ready.
It encourages critical thinking about contingencies. What's fascinating is, even in uncontrolled airspace where rules seem looser, you still need to meticulously survey and plan for the unexpected. Safety responsibility always rests with the pilot, regardless of airspace class.
Okay, let's jump into some real-world scenarios. These aren't just hypotheticals. They're the kind of situations that really test a pilot's judgment, push them beyond textbook knowledge into practical, adaptive decision-making, where the site survey really proves its worth.
Yeah, where the rubber meets the road, so to speak.
Exactly. Imagine this. You're doing a facade inspection on a downtown skyscraper. Rooftop launch, client says it's fine. But you arrive, rooftop's crammed. Huge HVAC unit humming right there. Forest of antennas, satellite dishes, cell towers. Before you even arm the motors, controller throws compass errors, GPS warnings. What do? Push through because the client's waiting.
Absolutely not. Don't launch. Classic example of invisible interference only a physical survey reveals. HVAC, antennas, dishes, powerful electromagnetic interference sources can mess up compass, GPS badly, leads to erratic flight, flyaways, bad data. Steel structures plus powerful radio emissions equal trouble for drone navigation. Rooftop might be legal airspace-wise, but operationally. Not smart, not safe. Priority is safe signal, solid GPS lock over convenience or client pressure. What's fascinating is how even a flat, open roof can hide invisible dangers revealed only on site last minute. Find an alternate clean spot on the roof or move location entirely.
Okay, lesson learned there. Here's another, common for newer pilots. Plan a weekend flight, nice open field. NAV drone shows uncontrolled airspace, no NOTAMs, perfect, right? Arrive set up, about to launch, bylaw officer approaches, stops you. You're in a public conservation area, strict municipal drone ban. Deeper lesson.
The insight isn't just check bylaws. It's recognizing the legal landscape is a layered cake. Federal, provincial, municipal rules. A green light from one authority, like NAV drone for federal airspace, doesn't mean go from others. Your success, your legal protection, hinges on mapping all layers. Check municipal bylaws, park permits, private property rules, they can add restrictions, or outright bans federal tools won't show. In this case, apologize, pack up. Hopefully you had a backup site pre-checked. Raises the question, how thorough is your pre-flight research into all applicable local rules, not just federal?
Good point. Okay, dynamic scenario. Long-term inspection, new subdivision under construction, open sky, technically unpopulated, seems perfect. Arrive for flight. Construction crews working nearby, heavy equipment active, landing area beside a new gravel dump. Immediate action.
Reassess and adjust immediately. Workers count as bystanders under SIRs. Need 30-meter horizontal distance unless manufacturer specs allow less with mitigations. A clear site isn't clear if it's dynamic, constantly changing. Use cones, signage for a clear takeoff landing safety zone. Continuously check for changing activity, new equipment, work areas, personnel. Underscores that site survey isn't a one-off checkbox. It's ongoing, dynamic assessment. Needs continuous updates, especially on construction sites.
Right, conditions change, survey again. Here's one hitting close to home for urban pilots. Ideal park, NEV drone uncontrolled, no NOTAMs, looks clear. Then a local jogger mentions, oh, watch out for helicopters, hospital heliports just blocks away.
Pause launch immediately. Not all aerodromes, especially private ones like hospital helipads or small strips, show up clearly on NAV drone. Part of your survey must be local awareness, human intelligence. Physically scan, check detailed satellite images, Google Earth, for unmarked landing areas. If within proximity rules, CRRs 901.47, you must contact the heliport-tearport operator for coordination before considering launch. Responsibility extends beyond the app. It's active, comprehensive due diligence.
Okay, dig deeper than the app. What about this magnetic mystery? Flying near a transformer station, sight looks clear, drone keeps shifting orientation at launch, won't hold heading. Realize you're over buried electrical lines or rebar. Core lesson.
Lesson is profound. The ground under your feet matters hugely. Site surveying includes invisible hazards like magnetic electrical interference. Fields from high-voltage lines or ferrous metal can severely disrupt compass GPS. Dangerous errors. Stop, relocate, launch several meters away from suspected source. Do a fresh compass calibration in a clean environment. Never assume clear ground is truly clear. Greatest dangers can be literally beneath you, unseen.
Wow. Okay, classic challenge. Operating legally, open field cones, signage, safe zone. Local resident storms over, clipboard, yelling about privacy on public land. The Karen with a clipboard. How to handle.
First, stay calm. If needed for safety de-escalation, stop the flight. Have documentation ready, license, site survey log, flight plan, permits. Explain calmly, politely you're operating legally, not recording private activity within regulations. Offering to show docs, redirect camera, land early can often de-escalate. Lesson: your setup and professional demeanor are your best shields. Perception is crucial. Professional setup signals competence, responsibility, can prevent diffuse confrontations, builds public trust.
Professionalism is de-escalation.
Okay.
Okay, dynamic ops again. Multi-day survey, construction site. Day one, perfect. Day two, return, find a new temporary fence blocking plan, takeoff, people working right behind it. The fence that wasn't there yesterday.
You must redo your site survey. Powerful principle. Yesterday's site is today's hazard. Environment changed. Invalidated previous assessment. Pick new launch spot. Re-verify bystander clearance. Re-establish VLOS. Update log with new conditions mitigations. Surveying is ongoing, continuous, not a one-time check, especially in dynamic zones. Any significant change needs a fresh assessment.
Always reevaluate. What about the bridge trap? Filming a highway bridge, launching from a pullout. Survey reveals no safe return to home if GPS fails on our bridge. Heavy traffic, potential magnetic interference from metal structure, insight.
Bridges are notorious GPS compass traps. Look simple, demand expert-level surveying, robust emergency planning. Metal creates GPS shadow, multipath errors, unreliable positioning. Heavy traffic complicates emergency landings, often requires manual flight plans, dedicated spotters with clear comms, identifying alternate landing zones on both ends away from the bridge. Complex environments defying simple assumptions need heightened planning contingency.
Okay, sounds like high-risk ops require high-level planning. Back to emergencies. Mid-mission construction survey. Sirens wail. Emergency vehicles rush onto site. Reported gas leak. Emergency services take over.
Absolute priority. Land immediately. Drone should never hinder emergency ops. Land safely, notify site contact, maybe emergency crews of aircraft location. Critically, do not resume flight until explicitly cleared by first responders. Be prepared for that to take hours, even days. Meticulous site selection must include clear exit strategy for such unforeseen emergencies. Public safety first.
Got it. And this last one sounds crazy, but highlights unexpected hazards. Rural event, airspace clear, crowd behind barrier.
Yeah.
Then someone unaffiliated walks out, box labeled Skyblasters Pyrotechnics, starts setting up fireworks near your fallback landing zone.
Yeah.
A dude with fireworks.
Immediately suspend operations. Dynamic, unpredictable hazards like unauthorized fireworks, lasers require immediate, in-the-moment resurveying. Initial site plan is now invalid. Approach pyrotechnic team, cautiously, professionally. Ascertain timeline safety radius. Update flight plan accordingly, likely relocating entirely or delaying. Initial plan only as good as conditions at the moment. Continuous situational awareness is paramount. All these scenarios bring us back to a crucial mindset point. Transport Canada exams, the whole framework, are designed to weed out checkbox pilots. Just because something is technically compliant, you found no legal red flags, and a basic check doesn't automatically mean it's operationally wise or truly safe. The best pros consider a full, nuanced risk assessment, ready to relocate, delay, cancel entirely, even if technically allowed, if their comprehensive survey reveals unacceptable risks. Prioritize safety above all, even over completing the mission as planned.
That's such a powerful distinction. Leads perfectly to a core mental model from the sources. Every site lies twice.
I like that.
First, it lies once online. Digital tools, NAV drone, maps, airspace charts, show what should be there, the static info. Essential for initial planning, but it's a snapshot. But then, it lies once in person, when you arrive. Conditions change since satellite image. New construction, temporary event, hidden hazards like a new fence, EMI, territorial wildlife reveal themselves. Things move. What was true online yesterday might not be true today in person.
Exactly. The map is not the territory.
So what does this mean for you, the listener, practically? Always validate the site with your own eyes, boots on the ground. Be ready to adapt on the fly. Treat site selection as a living, dynamic part of the mission, not a one-off task at your desk. Ongoing observation, assessment, adaptation, right up until the prop stops spinning.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how your professionalism, your whole business reputation, is judged from the moment you step on site. Many seasoned pros say their biggest business growth came not from fancy marketing, but from random people just watching them operate safely, professionally. So treat every site like it's your interview for the next job. A sloppy site, unclear signage, bad barriers, disorganized crew signals amateurism instantly to clients, bystanders, auditors, anyone watching. Conversely, a safe, clear, legally chosen site, meticulously set up, visible safety measures, confident, organized crew that builds immense trust. Your physical presence, your site management speaks volumes about competence before the drone even lifts off.
That's a great perspective. Reputation starts on the ground. And this brings us to that fundamental mindset shift, separating basic from advanced operators, right? Moving from just asking, where can I fly, to truly asking, where should I fly? Don't just chase legality, the bare minimum. Lead with sound judgment, robust risk understanding, a strong safety ethic beyond the checklist.
Absolutely. And if you need a high-stakes mindset test, the sources offer a brilliant one. Ask yourself, would I let my kid fly here? Simple question, but forces you to elevate judgment beyond just compliance. If the site feels risky, cluttered, uncontrolled, rushed, if you can't clearly explain your risk mitigation in under 60 seconds, then you probably haven't done a real thorough site survey. This lens clarifies judgment on tricky edge cases, forces prioritizing safety above all, even if technically okay. It's about personal accountability, a higher standard of care, building a safety culture.
The kid test. I like that. It really personalizes the risk. So for our listeners who want to stay ahead, the sources offer clear advice on staying sharp in this fast-evolving field. First, don't just follow rules. Understand the why behind them. Deeper comprehension empowers informed, nuanced decisions in real-world situations, not just mechanical rule application. Second, consistently build and refine a repeatable professional site assessment process. Use safe flight. Make it habit, not exception. Consistency, thoroughness are key. And finally, stay relentlessly updated. New SOAR amendments, Navy drone updates, industry forums, Transport Canada workshops. The landscape changes constantly. Continual learning isn't just recommended. It's non-negotiable for true professionalism.
Indeed, knowledge is most valuable when understood and applied. Continual learning, critical thinking, commitment to proactive safety, essential in a world of increasing information, tech advances, complex ops. It's about being a proactive participant in safety, a true guardian of the airspace, not just a passive rule follower. If your drone is an extension of your eyes, letting you see the world from new perspectives, then your site selection is truly the foundational act, determines the clarity, safety, integrity of that vision. So, as you go about your day, maybe consider this provocative thought. What seemingly mundane, everyday location, your local park, a quiet industrial area, a rooftop might harbor a hidden drone danger most people never notice. Or conversely, what seemingly impossible spot, dismissed at first glance, might actually be a surprisingly perfect, safe launch location if only you knew exactly what to look for. Beneath the surface, within structures, and unseen air currents.
That's a great thought to leave people with. We really hope this deep dive has given you a whole new perspective on the invisible complexities of drone operations. The incredible foresight, meticulous planning, critical thinking required by professional pilots. Next time you see a drone flying, seemingly effortlessly, maybe doing a survey or getting stunning footage, you'll now know there's a whole universe of planning, dynamic assessment, and deep knowledge behind that seemingly simple flight.
That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.